Hi, hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar, What's New in VMware's cloud, multi-cloud load balancing and application services. So in short, we want to give you an update on Avi, which was acquired by VMware about 2.5 years ago, and we're called NSX Advanced Load Balancer. So we do want to give an update on that, what is happening in the past year, and what is upcoming in our releases. Today, my name is Lei Yang, and the Director of Product Marketing at VMware at Avi team. I'm joined by two of my colleagues here. You can see them. One is Aziz and Christian. Why don't you give a very quick intro and also get so people get familiar with your voice.
Hi everyone, this is Aziz. I am a Technical Product Line Manager in Avi BU. I work on the NSX integration side of the things and the L4 protocol stack.
Nice. And good morning from me as well. My name is Christian. I'm the product owner security, and everything security related on our platform is kind of my responsibility. And that will be my part of the presentation as well.
Nice.
Back to you, Lei.
Yep, okay. So before we start the presentation, I just want to give a few kind of housekeeping notes here. First of all, this webinar is being recorded, and we will soon send you a list of the recording, the on-demand recording, as well as the slides at the end of the webinar. So if you register for it, you will get them. Now, if some of the coworkers couldn't make it to the time, you can forward the link, on-demand link to them so they can view it at their convenience. And also, I want to point out the Q&A window. So we will finish the presentations and demos first, and then we will switch over to a live Q&A that I'll read out some of the questions that you have inside the Q&A. All right. So let me kind of quickly go over the agenda. So we have a really packed agenda, right? As I said, we have a lot of features that we released over the year. So I'm going to do a very quick introduction of Avi. So for those of you who are not familiar with our architecture, I kind of want to build the foundation and also state why we're here. And then Aziz is going to cover the ecosystem integration. So it's two parts. I'm going to talk about the integration with VMware NSX, as well as integration in the cloud space. So how we're integrating with all the VMware clouds. Then we're going to pivot a little bit to Christian, who's going to talk to us about a very tech preview feature called bot management. So that's a major enhancement that we have in the application security solutions we have. And last but not least, each of the presenters will give you some demos to showcase what exactly we're talking about, because we do believe to see is to believe, and we give every opportunity for our customers to see our product live. All right, so a quick spiel for me is I think about our Avi solutions. Why to date 12,000 plus hardware load balancers have been replaced by Avi. Now last year the number was 7,000. So over the year we have helped a lot of customers who are using so-called legacy load balancers, and we think hardware solutions are not built for today's world. Now, another side of it is a lot of customers have different deployments. They have on-prem deployments, they have public cloud deployments. They're also looking for some kind of, building some private cloud and hybrid cloud themselves. So we really tout ourselves as the Switzerland of load balancer. Because of the architecture we have, we're very agnostic to the underlying infrastructure. Actually, today, Aziz is going to show you the secret sauce behind. Because we have a very common consumption model for our APIs, so everything is built on that. All the integrations that we do is from a common model. So what today that Aziz is going to cover in terms of seamless integration with NSX, as well as integration with VMware clouds, such as VMC on AWS, Azure, and GCP, they are all built on the same principle. And then app security is built on the same platform as well, meaning you can actually deploy a WAF, deploy a DDoS, deploy some AV antivirus monitoring solutions, based on the same platform. So a quick overview of Avi's architecture so that you can understand. So we have a completely software-defined architecture. So here, what is shown is we have separated the control plane from the data plane. So you have a central Avi controller where you're managing all your policies across different environments, whether it's on-prem or public cloud, whether you're deploying your applications on bare metal, virtual machines, or containers, right? It's a one platform, a single platform for all the multi-cloud environment. The reason that we have separated out the control plane and data plane is so that you don't have these two elements kind of tightly coupled in one hardware appliance or the form factor. It doesn't matter anymore. What it allows is we allow a central orchestration across all these service engines. We call the service engine. These are essentially load balancers or WAF that you can deploy in the different environments. We can elastically scale out and scale back, just like a public cloud experience that a lot of the public cloud vendors is able to provide. You're also able to create resiliency. What we mean is, if you have a service engine that goes down, no problem. Your applications won't experience any availability issues. We can quickly spin up another one and also move workloads towards that new service engines if needed. So a lot of these is very transparent experience for the customer. Also, we have built-in analytics, and that is one of the really unique differentiator for our platform, because load balancer is deployed inline, right, between the users and applications. It's a perfect prime location for us to collect all the analytics and then feeding to the controller for making decisions. Also, the controller is a single endpoint for API integration, meaning that for all the ecosystem that they're going to see later, the way to integrate into us is through the Avi controller, nothing else. You don't have hundreds of load balancer pairs that you have to log into and make configuration changes, or have to apply different policies because you're in a different environment. The operational model is very much the same or very consistent. That's what we call it, multi-cloud consistency. Okay, now next slide, please. Yeah, actually, for observability and analytics, it's really something that you will see in the demo later. So I'm not going to say too much about it. Avi Pulse is something that Christian is going to touch quite a lot. This is a service that we're able to feed a live security updates and intelligence updates into the WAF, so that the WAF get the latest signatures, some bot detection, and signatures, as well as other threat alerts. So Christian will show how it's in place later on. Next, this is a quick summary of all the capabilities, both in terms of application services, such as local and global traffic management, GSLB, for example, WAF and app security, container ingress. If you deploy us in a Kubernetes or OpenShift environment, we can serve as the ingress controller and before you get into the cluster. We also support multi-cluster connectivity and security through that same platform. Okay, so without further ado, I'm actually going to switch over to Aziz to tell you the latest that has been out in both our past releases and upcoming releases. Aziz, it's all yours.
Thanks, Lei, for the very insightful introduction to Avi. So quickly before we start, just to kind of summarize what Lei said and the strategy for VMware with respect to load balancing. Avi is the choice of load balancing going forward. So all the products of VMware, you will see a very tighter integration going forward. And not just NSX, across all other products, you will see Avi being as the choice of load balancer across. So the recommendation for all customers is that whenever you are doing a new deployment, please go ahead and start consuming Avi. And for any existing, like for example, NSX TLB deployments, we have migration plans, and this was covered in one of the previous webinars, and we will do more follow-up webinars on them as well. Just to summarize, as Lei explained, we have LTM, local traffic management, global traffic management, WAF, container services, analytics, and DNS and IPAM services, whatever basically a enterprise grade load balancer requires, all of them packed into one platform for all of your different ecosystems like Azure, Google Cloud, on-prem or public clouds. What basically it means that any app, any cloud, you are able to achieve the load balancing solution with one platform. Same look and feel and the same platform for managing all your resources. And as I said, we integrate with all the other VMware products. We have load balancing solution for Horizon, VMC, NSX, Tanzu, and what we are going to talk about today, the ABS and GCV also. So just to give a quick summary of the previous slide, basically Avi control can be deployed using any of your orchestration, for example, VRO, VRA, or Ansible, or Terraform, or what we are going to talk about today is even use NSXT policy APIs or UI to deploy the Avi controller, the initial install itself, right? Or you can use any of the SDKs like Go or Python SDKs to kind of deploy them. Once you deploy, you can integrate the infrastructure with the Avi's controllers automation. What it means is that the load balancing functionality wherever you require, either be it bare metal or a virtualized environment on-prem or a cloud native environment, you are going to have the same look and feel from the same controller, and we are going to integrate for all these platforms, right? IaaS platforms with this automation. Not only that, once you have deployed to kind of operationalize or automate your operations, when to create, when to scale in, when to scale out, and to utilize the metrics and to kind of make your provisioning much more intelligent, we integrate with a lot of operational tools like Grafana, Zabbix, PagerDuty, or Prometheus, and all of these, right? So you can use, because we are API first, API driven architecture, you can integrate with different ecosystems, not only at infrastructure level, but also at the operational level and orchestration level, right? So this is the main advantage when you start using Avi compared to legacy load balancers. And to kind of summarize as we were talking about, today we are going to talk about the NSXT UI and CLI and the ALB policy, which is going to come in the future NSXT release. And already we have, for you to consume Avi controller, you can either use Avi's its own UI or CLI, or the automation frameworks we just now discussed, the VRA integration or Salt Stack provider, the Terraform provider, or the Ansible modules or playbooks which you have, or even many of our customers write their own custom built automation packages on top of our Avi Swagger spec or the REST APIs which are provided. Not only that, as we mentioned on the other products, you can integrate with VCD or even Tanzu, kind of utilizes to provide a lot more functionality across the Kubernetes offering, the Tanzu offering which we have. So quickly, let's dive into what we have done in the past year with respect to NSXT integration. In the upcoming, so currently what you have is Avi controller can consume or get deployed in the NSXT ecosystem by interacting with NSXT manager and vCenter manager over the APIs. So effectively, this was added in the last year release 20.1.1, release in the last year June, where you can create an NSXT cloud from Avi controller to kind of create or realize your load balancing requirements in the NSXT ecosystem by utilizing all the NSXT objects, like for example NS groups or NS services, and use them to kind of even create DFW rules or even policies to kind of control or achieve the zero touch model, right? So we have taken this another step further, where what you are going to see is that from NSXT manager, using the NSXT UI or policy APIs, you will be able to provision Avi controller. So you don't have to separately install and then come back to NSXT manager. From NSXT manager, you will be able to create the Avi controller, right? And once you have the Avi controller, again, you don't have to go back to Avi controller to use them. You can use either the cross launch UI, which we have integrated with NSX UI, or you can use the APIs. The NSXT Manager APIs to configure the LB objects or services which are required, right? So we will get into a little bit more deeper on like how this integration works in the demo. So just to summarize, with Avi, you have different workflows with respect to operational, where you will install Avi controllers, do day zero configuration like your cloud configuration, your service engine group creation, and the licensing which is required to be done. Then on the platform and security ops, you would create your certificates and the rotation policies you want to configure, and the upgrade operations like upgrading the Avi controller and patching the Avi controller. So in this pillar, basically you can achieve installing of Avi controllers from NSXT Manager. For rest of the other workflows, you will still have to use Avi API UI or the automation which is of your choice, which you want to use. Right? On the consumption side, once you have this deployment done, you will be able to configure the LV applications with basic feature sets from NSX UI and API. For any advanced features like WAF and GSLB, you will still have to come to Avi UI, API, or the respective automation. On the infrastructure side, for any of your service engines, let's suppose you want to increase the sizing of them based on your consumption, or want to do additional scale or scale-ins, you have to come to Avi, or set up any of the underlying networking, you will have to come to Avi to do this, right? And again, with respect to analytics and troubleshooting, or even raising support cases, in 21.1, recently we added a proactive tech support feature, which is in tech preview, where automatically the Avi controller, if it is registered with Avi Pulse service, it will create a case automatically for you if there is any failure which it detects. Right? So these are the quick summary on the workflow. So the orange ones are the ones which you will be able to consume from NSXT Manager in the upcoming release of NSXT, right? And this is like a quick screenshot of it. We'll do a deep dive with the demo. So you have a new option called Advanced Load Balancer. So going further, the load balancing option, which is the inbuilt NSXT LB, will be kind of eventually retired, and you will have only the Advanced Load Balancer option. So this is the under the system appliances, you get the option to deploy Avi controllers, and once you deploy, you can come back to the Advanced Load Balancer and you can configure your load balancing virtual services which are required, right? And these get reflected in actually on the controller. I'll go through this demo towards the end. At this point, I'll get into a little bit more on the GCV and AVS public cloud offering. Before I start that, let me quickly briefly give a introduction that you guys may be familiar with the AWS VMC on AWS offering, which VMware has, and in that offering, you deploy Avi as a no access solution. And we have expanded that offering to the other public clouds or hyperscalers like Azure and Google Cloud. And why did we do that is basically the legacy load balancers, they don't provide any of operational simplicity or automation or any of the cloud native capabilities, right? Any of your cloud functions you want to use, you will have to use either a VPN tunnel or something. You don't have a native integration. Whereas on the other hand, where if you are using either Azure App Gateway or load balancer or a Google Cloud's load balancer, you don't get all the feature sets which your enterprise load balancing solution would be required, right? And also each of them have their own implementation of a load balancer. You don't have the same look and feel or same operational capabilities when you're using multiple clouds in your deployments. especially for customers like currently even most of them who are even on-prem, they are looking forward for the cloud solution as an extension or even as a DR capability. And today, most of our customers are all looking towards multi-cloud solution, which is the best solution going forward for when you are moving towards the cloud native solutions, right? And Avi, so we currently don't have a right solution, and that is what Avi or NSX Advanced Load Balancer provides. It provides the same enterprise grade functionalities across all clouds, either public or on-prem, and we have kind of extended this integration for AVS and GCV, and we are going to talk about a bit in detail. We had done a webinar previously on this topic, but we'll do a quick deep dive on that and move to the next topics. So as I was saying, you get all your load balancing functionalities also with respect to application security. You get bot management, web application firewall, application rate limiting, DOS protection, user authentication, authorization, SSL, and termination and encryption, L3, layer 3 and layer 4 firewall and DDoS protection, along with the visibility and security insights, right? And how do we achieve that? It's the architecture what we follow, where you can use the same Avi controller to kind of deploy your load balancing services across data center, private cloud, and public cloud. And we get live feed updates on IP reputation signatures, WAF signatures, and threat data detections and bot detection from the Avi Pulse service, right? So this is our Swiss knife, as Lay explained, and you get in one place. You don't have to use different products for each of them. If you compare, like, the respective public cloud offerings, you get a different product for each of these functionalities, or even on the legacy load balancers, each of them is sold as a different product. Here you get all of them in one place in one product, right? And you are only charged for your service engines consumption licensing. You are not billed for your the control plane, and that gives a lot of flexibility to you for your expansion and elasticity. And quickly moving to the AVS, Azure VMware Solution, and Google Cloud VMware Engine. The main point I would want to convey, or you to take back, is that these are infrastructures provided by or engineered by Microsoft and Google themselves, or the respective cloud providers, and these are validated by VMware, and they are powered or automated. Automation is provided with VCF, right? So it's like single point deployments for you, very easy to upgrade or kind of manage your infrastructure, right? You don't have to worry about underlying hardware. You don't have to worry about your infrastructure, which is being provided by or integrated by VMware. And the load balancing solution works in the respective ecosystem. So just to give you a brief on this, so if you have an on-prem data center and you want to integrate with Azure or Google Cloud, you can create a AVS. It's like a private cloud which is created on a public cloud, and you can peer them with your Route Express or VPN gateways, and your extension which you have in the public cloud. There you can deploy your load balancers or your workloads which are required with, and they can integrate with the respective native cloud services like Azure AD, or for in case of Azure, the SQL servers or the NetApp files or traffic manager. You can use all of them to kind of simplify your operations, or kind of utilize your workflows more intelligently or effectively, right? And you get billed for what you use. The similar architecture is followed. You kind of land onto Google Cloud Portal. You deploy your GCV setup, where you will say these are the number of hosts, and you want in the cluster, and once you get the cluster, the whole stack, SGCC stack, where you get vSphere, vSAN, NSX package into it, you can install Avi Load Balancer on top of it, and you can integrate with their respective native solutions. And the advantage is that you can have the same data center kind of integrated to Azure, GCP, and the true multi-cloud solution you can get. And on the other side, the public cloud advantage is that all these clouds are present in multiple regions. So no matter what, where your data center is there, maybe in Europe or US or Asia Pacific, you have a peering region for you to kind of work with, right? Or even if you want to have cross regions, you can do with the respective solutions, right? So this greatly simplifies your operational expenses and kind of provide the flexibility to scale in, scale out very easily in any of the respective regions or where these cloud infrastructures are provided. So kind of quickly give a view. You will get, once you have the GCP and you can deploy Avi as a load balancer in them, you get full feature load balancing, which we just now discussed all the features. And the use cases what you can use for is like, either you can use the public cloud where you have the GCP deployed as a standalone, that you don't want to use data center, you completely want to lift and shift, or you want to use as a DC expansion, meaning you want both presence in data center in the on-prem data center as well as the public cloud. You can do that, and even also do burst capacity, like on demand. You want to create this on demand and then use the public cloud resources. The same on Azure side, the underlying constructs change, but everything remains the same. So the overview of the NSX integration in AVS and GCP is the same as on-prem. This is the same architecture where you have Avi controller talking to your NSX manager and vCenter manager in the management domain, and you deploy the Avi controller in the workload domain with the respective service engines which are required for your load balancing applications. And we automatically allocate the VIPs. And if you want to do as the IPAM and DNS management, we can do that. And the great advantage is that we can kind of understand the underlying NSXT objects and provide you the functionality for any of the automations which are required, right? And we can scale in and scale out as Avi controller is intelligent, all the metrics are there, we can scale in and scale out very easily. At this point, I'll hand it over to Christian to quickly talk about the bot management and go into details on that. Christian, you want me to continue the slides, or?
Oh yeah, that would be really nice. Then we don't have to switch right away. Sure. So let me just take you away from all the infrastructure talk that Aziz just went through, and let's focus on something completely different. If you go to the next slide, and we have to kind of see that when you have any website out there, right, then about 60% of the traffic is from humans when you look at recent studies, but the rest is actually not from humans. So what is it, right? So we categorize them as bots, and those are automated programs that act like a human, but actually doing some specific task on that specific page, right? It could be a good bot or a beneficial bot where you have a search engine that we all are very much aware comes by and indexes our web pages. You might have a partner page that continuously gets updated because we have new content there, site monitoring, copyright checks, all of that we would classify as good bots. But there's also a large percentage that are actually, we would call them bad bots here, that those are the scrapers, the spam that gets distributed everywhere. You might have click fraud bots, impersonators. For example, an impersonator bot would be something that tells you it's a Google bot, but it's really not. And obviously the much larger problem of having botnets in general that can launch attacks or scraping and any page out there. So that's why, and let's go to the next page. Bot management is actually an essential layer in the application security stack, as he's mentioned it earlier, because it's vital to detect, classify, and then act on the bot traffic. And we have to kind of think about this from a how did we get there? What did we build? And this is our bot management pipeline, where we do detection first, then classification, and then actions. And before we go to the next slide, one quick disclaimer: bot management is also available as tech preview currently, so we are rapidly enhancing the functionalities, but it's still available to try out and for all our customers running the latest version of Avi. So, if you go to the next step, we talk about next slide. We talk about detection. So that's really the first step. The detection is looking at all the different pieces of the request of the client and identifying, is it a bot or is it a human? What are the different vectors that we can take, put together, and then send that to the classification. We've built this bot detection framework to be actually highly customizable and modularized. So in this way, we're adding more modules over time, but we also give our customers the ability to write their own specific detection mappings here, which can be used in the following steps. So again, the bot detection, we run this, and then it comes out with information about the browser. Is it a script? Is it a program? What is it? And then it goes into the bot classification step. And if you go to the next slide, it classifies each individual request into human, good bot, bad bot, custom bot, when you have your own customized bot configured, dangerous bot, or currently unknown, where we don't have enough data points yet to actually classify. And these classifications, once they are set, you can then use, and go to the next slide, you can use them in the actions. And this is where in an Avi solution, if you look at how any actions are triggered, that's in our policies. And here specifically, we are looking at the HTTP security policy, which can be configured to trigger on all of these specific classifications that we just saw. You can also use it in DataScript, which is our scripting engine, in case we have not built the exact action that you would like to have. And what kind of actions are actually available? We have, of course, if you have a dangerous bot, you might want to close connection immediately. But if you have a bad bot, you might say, okay, I'm allowing them still in, but very heavily rate limited. Or you decide, I have a custom bot that I created, and then I do send a custom response as well. So very granular and very customizable, again, through the HTTP security policy here. Yeah, and with that, we go to have a look at how that's actually configured. So the first demo I'm going to do, and then Ashish will show you the other bits and pieces. So Ashish, you're still sharing?
Yeah, no, I'm just switching.
Okay, thank you. So I want to share this window with you. So this is a virtual service configured with bot management, and we'll review the findings that the bot management brings to us. One thing I want to highlight though is, and Lei mentioned that in the beginning, before we can actually do this, we need to register the controller with our Pulse cloud service. And this is just the way how we would do this. You opt into these updates. So IP reputations, application signatures, bot management, all of that is in these thread feeds that Lei mentioned. And since they're here enabled, we can use them on our virtual service. So if we, again, go into the virtual service and just let's have a look how it's configured. The edit for the virtual service will allow us to review what's currently installed. So here we have our bot detection policy. And the bot detection policy really contains these steps that I talked about earlier, detection and classification. But and it has system defaults to really give you a head start here. But what about the actions, right? They are differently configured, and that's in our policies. Here we have policies for a set HTTP security policy. And similarly to what I told you on the slides, we have rules configured for good bot, bad bot, dangerous bot, and so on. And just open one of those up here. Shows us that we do a bot management classification match on good bot, and we rate limit this with a maximum of 1,000 per second here, and we do report only, because you can also do that, right? We have a good bot, we don't want to we want to rate limit, but we also want to see if they're coming over the limit, so we might have to recategorize them. So that's why we're getting the report only. On the other side, if you have let's say this dangerous bot here, this one is handled differently. We immediately send a response of 4.3 once it's identified. So this dangerous bot is blocked immediately. And the policies are very customizable, so you can have more, you can add more match targets here. So if I just choose from all of these matches that you can combine, you could, for example, use that to say, okay, if this good bot comes from these IP addresses or that IP address range, then I handle it differently. So all of that is possible through our policies here. So, but then we need to understand how does it actually show up in the logs, and what does the system give you us in terms of ideas of what's happening, right? So each individual log entry, and we have a couple here, gives you now, once you enable bot management, first an overview. Is this a bot or a human, or what is the classification? That's right here. Then you get other standard load balancing logs like location, you get the security rule that match, you get significance, and this is our first, again, introduction. Here comes the bot detection policy in place again. And if we scroll down, we can actually get more information about what happened here to this particular request, right? So it was classified as dangerous bot, and if you and the bot type is an impersonator, and it's identified as a spam source. So let's review that for that. There are a couple components that matched here. The user agent actually said this is a human, right? So it's a Chrome 78. It tried to hide its identity by sending a regular browser user agent, but the IP reputation actually found this to be a spam source. So this overrules, of course, the user agent, which is easily spoofable, and therefore it's classified as a dangerous bot. And so more and more of these components can work together to get to this classification. And we could look at more individual entries, but the power of the system is really the additional analytics we already provide you. And in the significance is the first indicator that we have bot traffic, right? We can use this here to see, okay, what are the logs that are generated? And here as a dangerous bot, we have 43 logs. In the significance, we can drill down even more in the classifications here in the bot analytics directly, and you can always use that to click on it and immediately have a filter, and then use it to combine that with different metrics. So let's see the dangerous bots, where are they actually going to? So a lot are going to slash, and the second is already /.env. So there is certainly some attack vector on /.env where these bots want to get to, but we're blocking them right out of the gate because they are marked as dangerous bots, right? So all these information you get here, of course, you can see where are they coming from, right? The location. Most of the bots today, so this is a live system, come from Canada this morning. You can do IP addresses, of course, as well. So many of these, and combine them to a really good view of what's going on in terms of bots in your system. So I just want to show you how to combine them, and then see where now these come from location-wise. So here now France wins on these .env requests. And with that, I hope I gave you a good introduction how quickly bot management is enabled, and the vast amount of information you immediately get out of it once it's once it's enabled, and identifying the clients in your traffic. And with that, I'm giving back the control to Aziz for some more demos.
Sure. Thanks, Christian. That was great. It really explains a lot. So quickly, let's get started with our demo. So the first part, let me share.
Just a quick thing here. We've received some questions, but just please wait for a little while till after the demo. We will answer them. There's a question on data script. I'll definitely ask them. Okay, just hold on for a second.
Yeah. So the first part is the install part on the Avi from the NSXT. So I have a recording because it takes around 30 minutes for the install process and 10 minutes to create the Avi controller cluster. So I have a recording of it. So we'll just quickly go through that. Right. So once you log into your NSXT manager, right, this is a fresh install of NSXT manager. Once you log in and you go to the networking menu, you see a new option of advanced load balancer, right? And once you go there, because there is no integration or the Avi controllers are not deployed yet, the first option, it says that go ahead and deploy the Avi controller, which is advanced load balancer appliance. So once you click there, you'll be taken to the system menu, where under the appliances, now you see a new option for advanced load balancers. To get started, the first thing you have to do is set the virtual IP for the cluster. So unless you configure this, you will not get the option to deploy the Avi controllers. The first prerequisite step is to configure the virtual IP. So I am using the IP range of 10.50.50.134 to 137. Basically, the first IP is virtual IP. The next three controllers, the 135, 136, and 137 will be the controller IPs. So I create the virtual IP here, the cluster VIP, and then if you can see, the grayed out option is now provided. And once you click that, you will get this option to upload the controller OVA. So what you have to do now is provide the link where the OVA is present. So I have a web server where I kept bunch of controller OVAs. I'm just providing that path here in the remote link. And once I click upload, the upload process and check on the validation of the OVA happens in this. And meaning in the meantime, you can go ahead and configure the host name and the management IP for this controller, what you want to use, right? The upload takes, depending on your connectivity, it's pretty fast between the link, the place where OVA is hosted and the NSXT controller. So for me, it takes like a couple of minutes, and in the meantime, I'm configuring the first controller, right? With the management IP and the management gateway and all these details. These details earlier you were you would have to do it as part of OVA deploy or OVA deploy, and the similar options are you would have configured in the workflow where you are deploying the OVA in the vCenter, right? The same menu items is what you see here. Sorry, it paused. So let's go back. So once the details are provided, you give the management IP, and then you have the option to choose the different node sizes, the flavors. You can use a small, medium, large. These are the Avi recommended sizes. For example, for a smaller environment, you use a 8 core 24 GB RAM and 128 GB storage. For a medium, you use 16 core 32 GB and large 24 and 48. These are all published on our KB. What is the scale you can achieve with these respective controller sizes, the number of ACs and VSS you can manage. And once you provide that, you will get an option which host you want to select. and the data store. Also, the similar UI is there for your vRealize network intelligence, VRNI. The same look and feel is getting kind of adopted for Avi appliance deployment also. People who are familiar with those appliance deployment, the same workflow is being adopted. So once you provide the network details and the host details, you can configure the password for the Avi controller, the admin password. And once you do that, you will get the install appliance option. This basically, the NSX manager will deploy this OVA into the vCenter, right? And I'll show you that. So the vCenter or the compute resource manager, which is configured, is this. So if you see the VM is getting deployed here, created here, and if you come to the configure and VApp options, this is what you would have configured manually. Now these are all populated automatically by the NSX manager, right? The controller IP, the same things which you filled in the form in the UI format, right? And when you come back, you can so if you currently this is we are trying to deploy a 3-node cluster. If it is 1 node, it will be in degraded state. If for production, we recommend to use 3-node Avi controller cluster. So I'm going ahead and creating the other 2 controller deployment with the same OVA, right? I'm using 20.1.79, the released image, which is available publicly, and just the different IP will be used here. You can choose the same process of choosing the host, data store, network for management, and then once you configure the password, you can go ahead and deploy. And here, if you, I wantedly gave the same IP of the first controller to show you the error that you cannot reuse the IPs. There are checks provided, and if you install the first controller with a small size, you have to use the same size for other 2 controllers which are getting deployed. So I'm going back and kind of changing, and then the third one is getting deployed. Just to kind of skip these things, it's the same steps for all 3 controllers. So you can see the 3 controllers getting deployed here, and once with the same properties, like with respect to IP addresses and properties, and if you can see they are getting deployed. This deployment takes around like 30 minutes. So it will show you the progress bar in NSX UI itself. And once here you see the first controller got deployed, and it is connected back to the NSXT manager. So you can go and log into the controller you can check what is the status. So I'm logging into that first controller, the 36. And if you come to the controller settings, you can see that this is a single, right now, single node. The other 2 controllers are getting deployed. And once that get deployed, you will see that, the whole cluster is stable, right? With the cluster VIP, this cluster VIP is assigned to .36. That's the leader. You will see this leader option. And also it will show you what is the uptime of the current controller right now, right? Since what time it is up. You will have options to kind of delete that controller or change the password in the actions menu. I'll show you that in the live system once. So once this deployment is done, and if you go back, you will see that the .36 is leader and other 2 nodes are followers. Right? So this is the quick thing on the recorded demo. We'll get back. This is the installation part of it. So once, if you come back here, I'll quickly show you. So as I was saying, once you log in, so in this NSXT manager, I have now all 3 Avi controllers deployed in the appliance. If you notice, right? I had, if you notice, I had deployed like around 3 hours back this one, and you get these options of either deleting that node or changing the password. So don't delete 2 nodes, then it will get into degraded state and your SEs will go into headless state. So always try to have minimum at least 2 controllers up. And if leader goes down, automatically there will be election of a new leader. All those things will work as is, which Avi controller runs, right? So once this is done, You can use APIs also to quickly check. So the enforcement point gets created. So once it was deployed, I kind of ran this enforcement. You can see that this is the cluster whip to which the NSXT manager, I'm querying the NSXT policy API enforcement points where this Avi controller is registered, right? And to kind of get the certificate for the connection or principal identities, these are the API calls which you can look, and to kind of know what is the current cluster status, which you see in the UI. You can look at this also, like which node is leader, follower, and the uptime of the overall cluster. Right? This is an API which actually the UI uses to render in the UI. And once this is done, right, and if I go back to my NSXT manager, and if I go back to my advanced load balancer, there is a prerequisite step, which is like, if before going back to NSXT manager, you have to come back to Avi and create the NSXT cloud, right? You have to configure, because you have to provide what are the tier ones. Are you going to use overlay or a VLAN transport zone? And is it going to be, if it is VLAN, which tier one gateway we are going to get deployed? If it is VLAN segments, then which VLAN segments, right, for management and data networks for the service engines, right, the load balancing entities. So you have to create this cloud. Once this cloud is created, you can go back to NSX manager. Here I have already created 3 VIPs. To quickly show you, I have created one VIP for SSL. I'll create one more for this demo, and I have one for normal port 80 HTTP application service, right? So let's quickly create a new virtual service. For that, basically, we need to first create a pool. So let's create a demo pool, right? In which basically my membership, I will define it based on, because this is NSX. Even in Avi, you could have done the same NSX group. So I have a web group for web servers, right? So I'll use that. Let me use both groups. Apply, right? So my membership is defined with that, those 2 web groups. And I can, this is the cloud which we created, NSXT overlay cloud, which I have. And the tier 1 which I'm going to deploy, this comes from the cloud definition itself. And that's it. So I'll create my pool. Pool is created, so demo pool. And if you come back to Avi and quickly go to your applications menu to see if that pool is present. So if you see, that pool got created in Avi, right, which you created from NSX. But because this pool is not assigned or attached to any of the virtual services, it is in grayed out color. So if I come back, I'll first create a VIP. So let's create a VIP, let's suppose demo VIP. Let's call it as 5.5.5. And the cloud is this. The tier 1 gateway is the same. I have only one tier 1 gateway. I'll save this. And to kind of show you, this also will, the VS VIP also, the demo VIP 5.5. Again, we don't have a VS. It doesn't know which port this VIP has to listen to. So we need to create the VS going back to this. So create, and to show you, I have only, before creating it, so I have 4 VSs here. There is no demo VS which we'll create. So I'll create a add virtual service. I'll create a demo -VS. The cloud is NSX cloud. This is a HTTP, simple HTTP I'm going to create, not a HTTPS or anything else, but you have a choice to choose this. And because I had already created the VIP, I am using the VIP here, and the port I'm going to listen on port 80. Right? So I can create add range port 80, add done. Right? So
Hey,
apply.
is it possible for us to answer some questions? I know that we're reaching kind of the top of our hour here, so I do want to
almost done.
answer the questions.
I'm just doing to kind of show and do curl, and that's it done. So if you see this got success, and if you come back here, we'll do a refresh here. Right, it's getting placed. It says pools are down here. Okay, So I think one of the pool members went down in this the pool which we have created. I'll update the pool membership to a static pool IP. Sorry, I didn't expect this to fail, so I'll use the same pool member which this guy has. 177 will use. So I can change the membership to IP address, IP group, address, member, IP address, and port is 80. And so, right, so this should get reflected here as well. So if you come back to virtual services, disable and enable. Yeah, so it will kind of find the network connectivity to the tool. It still says the server is down. Okay, so I have the other web. We'll just send traffic to that. So curl 3.3.3. I created it today morning, and this is the curl working to it. And once you come to this particular web, you can see all the traffic metrics and all those things. You cannot see the metrics or analytics from NSX UI. You have to come to Avi. Yeah, so Lei, I'm open for questions.
Yeah, let's quickly say, so Gara here has asked a few questions, so thank you for being patient. One is on data script. I do see some of our SMEs answered that. So that's similar to F5's iRules. However, the difference here is allows you to do more custom scripting. But in our experience, migrating customers from F5 to Avi, we've actually been able to take most of the iRules into inbuilt policies. So the percentage that you actually require some custom scripting is less. So it's about 80% in with policies, and then only 20%, maybe even less, that needs scripting. Okay. Another question he was asking is, can you please show the upload, the link? And I clarify, it means the OVA upload. Gaurav, I don't think we will have time to show that given the
no, I'll just
for the
quickly,
webinar.
I can quickly go there.
Okay, flash by, yeah. So yeah, the way how we do is we upload OVA files of Avi software and into NSX. So
yeah,
I think
you need to provide the link here. So in this option, I have put this OVA in a web service, right? This is currently on a web server, which I have provided that link. It's a HTTP link to kind of little bit go back and show you, or I can show it in here. So this is my hosting. I have a directory where I have put all these builds. So I just copy the link from here and put it in that. So because I had 3 nodes, I was deleting one out. So I can quickly show you again. So I can click on change here, remote link, and I can paste that link here. This is the HTTP link which I have kind of provided, right? And once you click upload, this will get uploaded to it. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Go.
And then there's a, sorry, Briu Yan, sorry, the name is a bit long, so I just read her last name here. Is whether we provide tools to convert F5 configuration to Avi. The question is yes. As at the beginning of the webinar, I said we've already replaced 12,000 plus hardware load balancers, and we did do. The migration tool is available for free. We don't need license. It's just that the migration tools might cover already 80-90% of the use case, and then there is some customization needed. We could help with support or professional services, but the tool itself is free. And another question is he kind of on the cluster. Some questions around is there any other role other than the leader? How do we select the primary controller? What if it goes down? Can the system be managed by another user? So can you just comment very quickly on this?
The election is automatic. There is no user intervention required. The election of the leader happens automatically between the 3 nodes. Basically, whichever the controller comes up first becomes the leader effectively. And if the leader goes down, one of the other 2 nodes becomes a leader. So and that is also done automatically. You don't have to assign a particular leader. There is no user intervention required in managing the Avi controller cluster, except for the deploying of the controllers and providing the VIP IP in case of you if you're doing from NSX Manager. If you're doing manually, all you have to do is you have to come to Avi UI and configure this. Because I deleted this node, it is showing inactive, and you will come here and you can just do edit. This is from Avi UI, right? You will provide what are those IPs of controllers you want, and the controller from which you are doing this operation becomes generally the leader. From NSX Manager, it basically picks up whichever the controller came first. You don't have to worry as an end user on those. Yeah. For changing the password, you can just do it from the leader. It will sync across all other nodes. You don't have to do from each and individual nodes. The thing is, the look and feel was to be provided same, so that we provided those options. But going forward, you will see this change password option only on the leader. We just provided the same actions on each of those UI entities. But for changing password, you just have to do it from the leader. Is there any other leader and follower are the those? Yeah, we answered that.
Questions on changing password, which you did answer. I believe we covered all of this, all the questions, and thank you for your participation in this webinar. I think there is
one important question which Anizuman had, is that this is a very good question. If you change something from, let's suppose you created something in NSX, the VS, and it got created in Avi, and you edit that or you change that, it is not going to get reflected back. So if you have any VSS which you are managing from NSX, don't edit them from Avi, right? Or basically, if you again edit from NSX, this will become the latest update, right? So let's suppose first you created from NSX, that is update 1, and then you edited something in Avi, that is not sent back to NSX, so that is update 2. Now let's suppose you do some other update 3, so now update 3 will become the latest update, and update 2 will get kind of overwritten. So for this mode of deployment, kind of stick to, if you have deployed this virtual services from NSX, stick to kind of editing them from NSX itself. Right? And generally the use case is to, the reason why we are doing that is NSX load balancing, as I mentioned, is going to get eventually retired, right? So we kind of encourage you to start using advanced load balancer, and that's the whole point of providing this option here. And we'll give you all migration tools if you have existing load balancers in NSX to move to advanced load balancer to do this functionality. We already have, or in the upcoming release of NSX, we are providing a migration coordinator for moving from NSX VLB to NSX T ecosystem with ALB. So that's going to get provided in the migration coordinator. And for F5, we have tools for migration tools are all free. These are all there on our GitHub repository, which is open for everybody. But if you need some assistance, our professional services teams work with you to kind of help you migrate that. But if you want to do it on your own, there is no, it's all free. You can use those migration tools to migrate. If load balancing gets retired, then basic LB function will not be available. No, so for the migration option, Anizuman, is that if you have NSX enterprise license, you get the basic Avi basic functionality. So we have 2 licensing methods. So if I quickly show you what are those options. So if you come to Avi controller and settings and licensing, we have this licensing option, right? So where you can kind of go to edit, you have enterprise license, basic license, and essential. So if you are using NSX enterprise, you get by default eligible for entitlement for basic license directly. You can start using basic license at free cost, at no cost. Basically, you don't have to pay for them. But the thing is, there are differences between the features which are supported in basic license and enterprise license. Basic license is going to provide all NSX LB basic features. Whatever you see here in NSX LB basic features, those are all going to get provided in the basic license. And for you can kind of click this learn more here. We embed this license tier PDF or the data sheet what are the features in a summary format and in a very granular format of what features are supported in enterprise and what features are supported in basic. So this you can go through to kind of understand what you get and what you don't get in the respective license, right? We have very detailed list here. We encourage you to use enterprise because you get a lot more.
Aziz.
Yeah. Go ahead. So we are running
sorry.
out of
I think we do need to conclude that. Yeah, we're running out of time, and I do want to respect everybody's time here. Also, we want to thank everyone for attending, and you will get the recording and the slides at the end of the with an email. So thank you very much for attending, and thank you, Christian and Aziz, for your time. Okay, all right, have a good day.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Thanks for moderating the whole session. Thanks everyone for joining.